So today's video, we're going to be looking at a follow-up to the budget Mermail competitive deck profile that I put up. This is going to be a test hand video to kind of explain some of the combos and, to help explain some of the tech choices I chose when designing this particular build. So as I believe you guys are aware, our budget for this deck was around the $80 mark, meaning we couldn't use Coral Anemone or Crystalline Halka fabrics. But once you start upgrading your build, this is a good starting point. The next cards you do want to invest in will be a playset of Called by the Grave. Of course, this is a great card in any meta sense because you're able to block hand traps as well as use it going first or second to help get rid of stuff from your opponent's graveyard, such as Eldritch the Golden Lord. Whereas Halka Fabrics just makes all of your combos way more consistent because you have tons of tuners in this deck, and this card being fairly cheap considering if you were to look at all of the meta staples like Appaloosa or Bolo Savage Dragon, this card being less than $30, which is about a third of your total budget of the deck, this is probably the best card to pick up if you want to start upgrading your deck. So I'm going to be explaining one or two combos with this card halfway through the video. So we do have our side deck here. We're probably not going to go into it unless we make some hypothetical scenarios, so I'm just going to keep it upside down and keep the extra deck back here. So we've already drawn a pretty good hand. Warrior of Greed is there to help us in case we draw any bricks. It also helps us bait some hand traps since we don't have access to Called by the Grave because it's not within our budget. So from this hand, we could go ahead and start with the Deep Sea Diva. Honestly, this is fine because if they hand trap it, it's still a tuner face up on the field to help you go into Halka Fabrics. But since we don't have that option, it actually hinders our ability to play through certain hand traps. So we're going to pretend that they actually, maybe if they do have Nibiru, we can still play through it because we can still search Deep Sea Minstrel. But the other parts like Ash Blossom or effectively are a bit harder cards to play through. So with this hand, it's pretty good. I'm probably just going to go ahead and normal Deep Sea Diva and use her effect. And we're going to special summon our Prince from our deck. And we're going to use Prince's effect to send Dragoons for cost. To add a Dragoons from our hand. And Dragoon's effect is going to go ahead and add Deep Sea Minstrel. You kind of want to get that card into your hand first off because you definitely don't want to lose to cards such as Nibiru. From here, we can use Deep Sea Minstrel, discarding the Dragoons to look at your opponent's hand and take a card out. Let's go ahead and use our beautiful hand loop dice. It'll reflect some of the sunshine or the natural light that's coming in. So we'll keep this counter over here. And we can go ahead and use Dragoon's effect to search for a Sea Serpent. One of the cool things we can choose here, because this build is reliant on Abyssalacia as our boss monster, so infantry is a good card to add. However, we can still add cards such as Megalo, Lapis Dragon, or even Mullen Glacier to have some hand loop effects during this turn. But if I'm going to try and do the standard Abyssalacia route, I'm probably going to add an Abyss Megalo, so we can make a Creaking of All Calamities because we have the Teus in our hand. That card is an absolute blowout card against many decks, so it's always a good option to play towards during your first turn. So from here we can use Abyss Teus to discard the launcher. Then we can use Teus's effect to search for the Abyss Mander. Now from here, since we aren't really worried too much about our water count in our grave, we can just go ahead and link off the Teus plus maybe the Diva, since we are not playing Halka Fabrics in this current build, to go into a Mermail Abyssalacia. We do have 5 orders in grave, so if you open, sorry, there's a helicopter passing through. Let's hope that isn't too loud. Alright, because we have some waters in grave, we're able to do a whole bunch of stuff, such as reviving our launcher to get 5 waters in grave to summon the Mullen Glacier should you open it in your hand. But that's not the case. From here, we can use Abyss Megalo's effect, discarding, special summoning it, using its effect in the hand, discarding both Gun plus Mander for cost to drop himself from the field. And from here, we can go ahead and use Megalo Chainlink 1 to search for an Abyss Scale, and then use Gun to Chainlink 2 to target the Teus in our graveyard and revive it. add the Mizuchi since we're going to be negating monsters with True King of all Calamities. So what we can do here is do a few different things. We could have gone to a Griffin plus a Curious Lightsworn Dominion lock, but because we summoned the Abyssalacia, we're actually not going to be able to do that unless we chose a different option. So if we wanted to play it safe, we can keep the launcher in the graveyard and just link off the Neptibus into a Link Karibo to stop attacks from coming through. And we can use the Abyss Mana to banish itself to manipulate the levels by 2. And we can go ahead and overlay both our Teus plus our Megalo for our 80-cent monster that deserves to be on a ban list, because so many decks can automatically make this just by using Halka Firebricks, which is why he's such an important card to increase the consistency and the power of your Mermail decks. So to end our turn, we are going to equip the Mizuchi to our Abyssalacia, giving us a spell negate. So let's go ahead and put a token onto Abyssalacia. During the end phase, Minstrel is going to put a card back into our opponent's hand, and we can detach the Calamities to stop all of their effects. During our following turn, we can draw for turn. If not, maybe negate a spell card with this. Draw a card, will be Infantry. And from here, we can also switch things into attack position. We can use our launcher to revive itself because we only have waters in the graveyard. And we can link off the launcher plus the Link Karibo. Launcher will get banished. To go into maybe a Cerberus or something. Even then, we don't even have to go to Cerberus. We can just link off the Abyssalacia and go into a Borreload Dragon to push for game. For this starting hand, it definitely may seem like we have a little bit of a brick, but this is where Moria Greed comes into play. And we're going to shuffle back our Lapis Dragon plus our Infantry back into our hand. Minstrel we don't really need, but it could be a helpful card in the future. It's also a tuner, so we can normal summon it to link off into something. But in this case, I think we are going to keep the Minstrel and put the Infantry plus our Lapis Dragon back into our main deck. Now we played 3 copies of Dragoons, 3 copies of Diva, plus 3 copies of Neptibus. So in total, that's 9 copies of our combo starter, especially, Dragoons paired with Minstrel or with Abyss Megalo. So we have a really high chance of drawing into one of those cards in our deck. So instead, we actually drew into 2 more Deep Sea cards plus our Abyss Gund, who actually won't be that much help with us this turn. So for example, if you did play Halka Firebricks, you could easily use Minstrel's effect, discarding itself plus a Megalo or a Gun to rip a card from their hand, or etc, etc. Or we can just use the Abyss Megalo, discarding some cards, and then normal summon the Minstrel and use 2 of them to go into Halka Firebricks. But because we drew duplicates in this hand, it's actually not that good. So in actuality, we're probably just going to do a very, very underwhelming Megalo pass, or just set a card in pass turn. Not a whole lot we could have done there. Mori didn't really draw us anything we needed. Hopefully this hand will have some more opportunities. So this hand's looking pretty good. We have the Moria of Greed, so we're gonna go ahead and bait that out by using it to shuffle the Torrent as well as the Abyss Megalo back into our deck. The reason why we played Torrent is so we can first summon it off of Deep Sea Prima Donna. This acts as a pseudo lock, and it doesn't matter if we put the Nibiru back into the opponent's hand because Torrent is face up on the field. We are able to prevent our opponent from nuking our entire board. Let's give it a cut and draw 3 cards, which is a Teus, a Gund, and a Moulin Glacier. So now we are able to go into True King of all Calamities with this hand. And from here, we are going to use You could use Neptibus, you could use 1/1 discarding the Neptibus or the Will Glacier to summon Neptibus, and then use Cinder Dragoons, add Dragoons, add Diva, normal summon the Diva, and go into Infantry and extend farther. But that's not actually something we need to do, so instead we will just use our normal summon of Prince, 2 Cinder Dragoons, and add Dragoons. Dragoons is effective. We'll go ahead and add Minstrel because we definitely don't want to get hand trapped this turn. We'll use Minstrel's effect, discarding the Atlantean Dragoons to take a card out of our opponent's hand, probably snipe any hand trap, and use Dragoons' effect to add an Abyss Megalo. Now from here we can use Tace's effect to discard the, I think the Megalo or the Glacier. I think I have some of my ratios mixed up. It's not too important. We'll discard the Glacier to search for a Mander. We can go ahead and link both of these two off for an Abyssalacia. Use Megalo's effect, discarding the Mander and the Gun, chainlink 1 Megalo, chainlink 2 Gun, target the Teus to revive it, and we'll search for Mizuchi. From here we can use Mander's effect, banishing itself to also increase the levels by 2. And we can end this with a true King of all Calamities with a Mizuchi equipped to the Abyssalacia. During the opponent's turn, we can use these effects to have a spell negate plus a monster floodgate, and during the following turn, we can use 1/1 discarding a monster we drew to special summon a Neptibus from our deck and go with the OTK from there. So a lot of the budget builds are kind of reliant on Calamities plus Abyssalacia, and you kind of have to rely on 2 to 3 card combos to do most of your strong power plays. That's, like I said, because Halka Firebricks isn't in this build, and he is kind of the real power card for most combo decks. Being able to enable a bunch of strong plays and things. And hopefully if our hand can allow it next turn, we can try and go for the Griffin plus Curious Imperial Order lock, as well as Monster Floodgate lock, which is another good alternative to playing some other power cards. This is actually a pretty okay hand. And the only way to get into this lock is to be able to have a Link Karibo pointing down, to have a Minerva to dump a Floodgate, and Griffin to revive it, and to block all linked zones to prevent your opponent's first summoned monsters from getting their effects. So we could bite the bullet and use more Reed to shuffle back Launcher plus Gun, and that's to hopefully draw into a Diva. We still have the Neptibus to try and do some things if we end up missing it, because we need the Diva to get the extra card onto the field, and it could actually prove to not be useful should we choose to use it or not. So let's use the Moray. Let's put Launcher plus Gun back, because even if we still draw into a Diva, we can discard the Neptibus to revive a Dragoons or something from our graveyard. Give it a good shuffle and a cut. Draw 3 cards. Minstrel, Gamma Seal, Glacier. These cards actually don't help too much. And so we'll use Neptibus' effect, not the Minstrel first. Want to keep the card economy up. Cinder Dragoons. 2 add Dragoons. Dragoons effect. We can add a Lapis Dragon or a Megalo. Well, just for example, and for sake, let's say we upgraded your build and threw in Halka Firebricks into this build, then this actually becomes a much better board. Right, so from here, let's go ahead and search the Abyss Megalo. And let's use Minstrel's effect, discarding itself plus Dragoons to take a card from the opponent's hand, and use Dragoons' effect to add Lapis Dragon. Opposite's effect will special summon itself from our deck, and we will link both of these off for the newly acquired Halka Fireworks. And let's use his effect to special summon the Fishborg launcher from our deck. Now, Crystal Halka Fireworks is a water type, as well as being a machine, so it actually helps a lot when playing the Minerva. So with 5 waters engraved, we can go ahead and drop the Moulin Glacier, taking 2 more cards out of the opponent's hand. Six. And from here, we can use, I don't know if I want to link up launcher here or later. Let's actually wait and use Avarice to shuffle everything back into our deck and see what other opportunities show themselves. Minstrel plus Megalo doesn't actually help too much. Oh well. Okay. So this isn't too bad. Let's go ahead and use the Megalo, discarding both the Minstrel plus the other Megalo. Not getting any effects, which is unfortunate. To go ahead and search for Mizuchi or Kraken. It's not too important. We're just gonna use this card to discard. Alright, from here we can use Launcher plus a Megalo. I think so. To go into a Risen Dragite. Use Launcher's effect to revive itself. Oh, this is where I wish I had another extender, because then we could just do a bunch of funny business. So we can't actually go into the Dragite because we'll lose too many cards. So we're just going to send the Launcher, the Megalo, plus the Halka Fireworks, which is a Sea Serpent machine and a fish, to go into the Minerva. Use Minerva's effect to dump the Imperial Order. The Minerva's effect will trigger because a card was sent to the graveyard, milling 3 cards. From here, we can revive the Launcher because we already have our waters in the graveyard. And we can send both Curious plus Launcher to summon the Griffin. Now the issue with this is because he's pointing upwards, your opponent gets 1 zone to activate monster effects, which isn't always that great. Which is kind of why it's important to have the Link Karibo linked up to those zones. So this is actually not so hot, but what can we really do considering we are missing access to some power cards? So yeah, Halka Fireworks can solve a lot of issues with the deck, but it doesn't always fix those hands that don't have Diva. All right, let's take one more hand to look at. Dragoons, Megalo, Mori, Avarice, and another Megalo. We have an extra Megalo, so let's go ahead and use the Mori Agreed to send 2 Megalos back. Now, the options that we draw into one of our 3 Megalos, one of our 3 Tases, or one of our 3 Minstrels means we can resolve the Dragoons. And it's very unlikely we won't draw into those, but as you've seen before, sometimes the chances do pop up when our odds aren't played correctly. Mizuchi, Minstrel plus Tase. This is a great hand. Now, this makes sense for some really cool water boards, but because we don't play Abyss Gaios because of his high price tag, which is unjustified, we don't have to worry too much about what we can or cannot do given our resources. Let's go ahead and search for Diva, normal summon Diva, special summon the Neptibus, Neptibus' effect to Cindergoons, add Dragoons and Megalo. So if we had the the Halka Fireworks here, we can easily go into the Griffin Lock because of having the ability to go into Link Karibo and then dropping the Minerva below it. So from here, we're going to use Teus' effect, discarding the Dragoons, using Dragoons Chainlink 1, Teus Chainlink 2 to go ahead and search for Gunda or Mander. Let's go ahead and search Mander because VFD is too good not to play. And we can have Dragoons search for, let's say, an infantry. Okay, let's go ahead and link off the the Diva plus the Neptibus for an Abyssalacia. And let's use Avarice to shuffle all 3 Dragoons back. And let's say the Diva plus the Neptibus, because drawing into those cards is always a good thing with this deck. So right now, all we're looking for is just a generic water discard, because we want to keep the infantry in our hand with the Mizuchi to equip to our Abyssalacia. So draw 2 cards. We have a Teus as well as a Gamma Seal. This is actually fine because we can literally just use this to discard the Mander, not search for anything. And then we can also have the 1 Mizuchi to equip because we don't really care about the Kraken because we're going to summon True King of all Calamities anyways. So that's right, just to keep the card economy up. Teus, discard the Mander, that part's not once per turn. Banish the Mander, increase their levels by 2. And we'll put Calamities in defense position so Lightning Storm doesn't take care of it. Now before we end our turn, we can equip the Mizuchi to our Abyssalacia, as well as we have the infantry for a disruption plus a floodgate, which is kind of like the optimal build for a budget Mermail deck. Now, of course, for suboptimal hands, you can literally go into Abyssalacia Pass, which isn't always that great, but it will protect you and kind of hope you won't get their decayed unless they have a graveyard effect card face up when they get rid of your Abyssalacia. If not, Abyssalacia can literally dump any water monster from your deck and revive any water monster from your graveyard, except for link monsters, because it has to go into defense position. But other than that, it kind of revives stuff as well as destroy stuff to protect you until the next turn. This hand's kind of funny, so we'll use Mori to shuffle back the Artisan plus the Barrier Statue. Now, I didn't actually show off using a whole lot of synchro stuff. Usually these cards are meant for going second board wiping as well as OTKing and all those fun stuff. First turn boards usually best making Abyssalacia plus Calamities, or Griffin plus Minerva Lock, which is much easier to accomplish when you have the Halka Fireworks. Really good 3 cards to draw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I might actually be able to show it off. So let's normal summon the infantry, extra normal the Diva, use Diva's effect to special summon a Neptibus. Neptibus' effect will send Dragoons as cost to add a Dragoons from our deck to our hand, and we can use Dragoons' effect to add a Megal. So from here, we are going to want to link off the Neptibus for a Link Karibo. And we can use the Teus to discard the Dragoons. Chainlink 1 Dragoons, Chainlink 2 Teus. Let's see what we can add. We can add the Moon Glacier or Lapis Dragon. And we can add, well, Abyss Gun for sure. Chainlink 2 resolves that first. Now we want to discard both Mander plus one of these cards. So we kind of actually need a buffer card to act as link material to make a water monster that's non-aqua. Non-aqua plus non-sea servant. So we kind of need access to a fish monster, which we don't have without Halka Fireworks. So there's the first issue. So I think we're just going to go ahead and add the Moon Glacier here. So from here we can link off maybe, well, it's a really big of an issue with the Halka fabrics not being there, so it's probably not something that's going to be consistent. These are probably going to be taken out for other stuff that are more consistently made. So instead we are just going to use Diva plus Teus and go into our Ravenous Crocosaur. Use this effect to draw a card because we use one non-tuner. It'll be Minstrel. Have you used Minstrel's effect yet? I don't think so. But we can use Minstrel's effect, discarding the Netibus for cost to take a card from our opponent's hand. Use Netibus's effect to revive the Dragoons. Perfect. So from here we can use, well, 1, 2, 3. We have 5 Waters engraved, so let's just drop the Moon Glacier right here. It's 3 cards out of their opponent's hand. Next, I will send Dragoons plus an Infantry to go into an Abyss Alacia, giving this, or maybe we have to put Moon Glacier in defense, to be honest. Helps protect it. So we'll keep the Moon Glacier here, pointing to the Arcadus. And from here we can use Megalo, discarding both the Mander plus the Gund to search for Mizuchi. And Gund can revive, let's put this over here. Teus. Let's use Mander's effect, banishing itself to go ahead. Put this. Increase the levels. Use both of these maybe to go into Calamities and link off this one more time for Link Karibo. Now we don't have 2 cards in hand to really use the Crocosaur's effect, so we kind of actually use it just to extend farther. And it's definitely like not a super optimal build if you're looking at the grand scheme of everything Mermails can do. But considering playing on a budget, this is actually a pretty okay board. You know, some other 11/9 options are good, but we're able to get the extra Megalo to make the Calamities. So I think that'll wrap up this test hand video. Don't want it to drag on too long. Let me know if the lighting is fine, because I'm still kind of adjusting some small stuff. And we're probably going to upgrade this build a little bit along the way and have a more stylistic budget build in the future. And we're going to revisit this maybe once every week or so to kind of, you know, add stuff in, take stuff out as the meta kind of evolves and new sets get released and access to certain cards occurs in certain regions. But so Christian Halka Fabrics is a pretty cheap card considering he is less than $30 at the moment. And once events start picking up, because I know some locals are actually starting to open up, and this card is a very good card to help because it just enables so much being a water in a machine. And it actually makes the Curious plus Griffin Lock way more consistent because you need 3 waters with different types. And this gets you access to that fish, as well as being a machine. So you can use machine plus a fish plus a sea serpent to go into Minerva and then Curious.